Welcome back to One on One, New York's longest running sports call-in show. I'm Will Tallant, and alongside me is Lou Orlando, and we have a very special guest on this one-on-one interview today. It's Julian Guilarte, minor league baseball and Major League Baseball beat reporter for the Somerset Patriots and the New York Yankees with Con las Bases Lienes. Great stuff. Julian has a great page on Twitter. Follow him at Julian Guilarte1. Great stuff covering the Yankees and minor league baseball. Julian, thanks for the time. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. I know it took a few weeks to get this thing together. I'm happy you got me now since we just created a new channel, Dugout Station, as well. So everything's rolling well. I mean, we get some news that Pablo Lopez is heading to Minnesota. The Yankees were in at the deadline. We know that for a fact. And Luis Ariz goes to the Marlins, and this is a good move for both sides, I think. I actually kind of feel like the Twins may have, I mean, the Marlins may have overpaid a touch, in my opinion. I think it seems like they gave a lot, but we'll get there.
Yeah, it just came out right before we sat down to record this interview, and I was just wondering, Julian, what's the total package? Do you know yet? I know it
Yeah, I
seems like a
got it.
Pablo Lopez and Luis Arias swap who was who was in front of Aaron Judge for the elusive Triple Crown. He edged him out at the end of the season. So big piece going to Miami, but what's the rest of that package looking like?
Yeah, so it's in front of me right now. They got an infielder prospect named Jose Salas, who's their fourth ranked prospect. This guy, I think they signed him when he was 16, very highly touted in one of their international classes. And then you're getting Byron Chorio, I believe, as an outfielder. So that's the package that's going back. So I think that the Twins got a lot for him, honestly. I think it's a good deal for them. Makes the rotation a hell of a lot better. They get some decent prospects to add too. And their lineup has a lot of guys. You know, they just got Carlos Correa. They have a million outfielders still, so they can mix and match some things. They got Royce Lewis still, so I don't think it's going to hurt them too much. I mean, Rice is a great hitter, obviously, not a power hitter, but a great average hitter. So, and his defense is kind of spotty. So there's that.
Yeah, I like the addition for sorry, Lou, for the
Oh, you're good,
Twins,
dude. You're good.
but Lou, what do you think about this before we hop into the Yankees talk?
I've always been a big fan of Arise. I like those contact bats sometimes. I'm not like super old school where I need contact up and down the lineup, but like I love DJ. I think Arise is a very similar player to DJ LeMay, where you could put the bat on the ball, hit for high average. I'm a little surprised to see Lopez get dealt right now. I was because the Marlins didn't deal him at the deadline. I thought they might keep him and maybe see how the first half of the season went. But obviously, Lopez is a great talent as an arm too.
Absolutely. They pulled the trigger now. I think it was probably smarter on both of their ends because you don't know how either of them would have panned out. They both had pretty good seasons last year. I think you're smart for the Marlins if unloading Pablo Lopez now with especially with all the young arms that they have. He was kind of the odd man out, and he's not even that old to begin with. So I think they got a good haul from him, and then they can help develop those younger arms into mainstay rotation or bullpen options. You'll just wait to see a lot of exciting stuff with the young Miami Marlins and the Minnesota Twins bringing back Carlos Correa, like you said, Julian. Going to be very interesting. And one more thing before we hop into the Yankees, let's talk about the Carlos Correa saga. That was
Oh
just that
God.
was crazy. That was nuts. Three different teams in the mix. He ends up going back to Minnesota. What did you make of that whole situation?
Yeah, the one thing I'll say quickly is that for the Marlins, the writing was on the wall when they got Johnny Cueto. I feel like they were kind of setting the deck to make a deal for a starting pitcher. And Lopez is the guy that would give them the most value, probably besides Alcantara, which isn't going to happen. So enough with that. For Minnesota and Correa, I mean, three teams. I don't even know, honestly. I've never seen anything like it before. Like we've seen one fail physical sometimes and things get reworked. You've never seen two. And then the Mets go right in with the Giants doctors. Apparently, they use the same doctors that failed him with the Giants. So how do they expect that to go any different? Is my question. There's so many weird things here. And then Boris was just trying to get him the top deal, and he still does all right, I guess, all things considered. Basically, 6 for 200 in theory. Actually, I think it's like eight, and there's like a 10, or there's some options or somewhere, but it could end up being 6 for 2 or something, I think. Or but anyway, yeah, it was just a bizarre situation. I felt like Correa had to get the most he could get now because it's not going to change next year. Like the medicals aren't going to get better magically. You never know; it could get worse. He get hurt again. Yeah, he does get injured a lot, so I understand the medical concerns with him.
Absolutely. Like I said before, lots of exciting stuff with this new baseball season coming around. I'm super excited. It was a very busy off season. The Yankees were busy. The Mets were busy too. Everyone's making noise, and a lot of big free agents off the board earlier than normal, especially with this new CBA. Maybe some change coming, and we saw it this offseason. Lots of names off the board, and everyone's gearing up for spring training. Now that spring training is on the horizon, and we're putting the offseason in the back seat, I want to talk about the Somerset Patriots a little bit, Julian, the Double-A affiliate of the New York Yankees. One of the prospects that's really caught my attention is pitcher Clayton Beeter. He was the prospect acquired from the Dodgers for Joey Gallo at last year's trade deadline. Small sample in 7 games with the Patriots last year. And given he is 24, so Julian, where do you see Beeter next season within the organization?
Honestly, Clayton Beeter, I could say something funny, kind of, but I don't know. We got to think here. I don't know why that went off. I freaking shut my phone. Sorry. So for Beeter, I mean, I saw him pitch a little bit in Somerset, obviously. You know, he kind of came on the scene pretty quickly. His numbers were so much better with Somerset than they were with the Dodgers. It seemed like he caught something, striking out a ton of guys left and right, building up his arms. Like, only go like 5 or 6. He wasn't giving you too much length, but they was like kind of slowly building him up. To me, I mean, I feel like, I don't know if he'll start in Double-A or Triple-A per se. I mean, I think there's a good shot he gets himself in the Triple-A range this year pretty quickly. I mean, and then, you know, at that point, he could obviously get called up. But you got to remember, he's behind Johnny Brito and Randy Vasquez in the pecking order because they're on the 40-man. So I don't know if we see Beeter in the Bronx this year, but maybe 24 for Clayton Beeter, unless there's a lot of injuries again. You know how that can go.
I know Will Warren was kind of garnering some attraction, especially from Yankee fans as they're trying to find hype in a lot of these prospects. But what do you see in him? And also, are there any other prospects down there that maybe aren't getting attention that you think maybe should be starting to get some hype?
Yeah, I'll talk about Warren. I did get to see him too. You know, he's an impressive kid. He was drafted in 21. He's flying through the system really quickly. He talked about how he got a little bit tired towards the end of the year trying to manage his innings. That was a challenge. So I think next year you'll see even better work from Warren. Another guy that could be in the AAA radar kind of quickly, but again, behind the pecking order. So I don't know if you'll see either of those guys in the Bronx this year, but I think they'll both make strong pushes potentially, depending on what happens. I think they'll both make it up to AAA. Warren's a competitor. He goes after. He pitches some big games. He was a little up and down at times, but way more good than bad, obviously. And he flew through Hudson Valley last year, and he's been impressive. So I'm excited to see what he has. Now, someone who I really like, I've gotten the chance to speak to him a few times, is Sean Boyle. I think that he's the guy that flies under the radar. He is getting an invite to spring training. He's not on the 40, though. Boyle's just a good pitcher. Like, he pitches to contact. Well, not per se, but contact. He actually has gotten his strikeout numbers up, but his velocity doesn't spin off the charts to you. But he's a guy that knows how to locate the ball. He has a bunch of different pitch mixes. He uses his cutter, a slide piece, like a couple other things, but he needs his location to be on point. Last year, he struggled to start the year, but then he got hot. He actually led the team in innings, like 155 in the minors, which is pretty impressive. He's very durable too. He's a workhorse, and I think he's someone that can get outs at the big league level.
Lots of promising guys that we're mentioning right now, Julian, on the Yankees farm. Is there any prospect that you see making some kind or maybe even an immediate impact at the big league level next season?
Well, I mean, I could cheat and say Peraza, obviously. I mean, because that's barely a prospect anymore, but I could just say him. I'm trying to think about, you know, it's really tough because Anthony Volpe at some point is going to get up there, obviously. I can say that with certainty. I think like maybe June-ish on, maybe May, best case scenario for him, depending on how certain things break. Obviously, I think he's going to be very impactful. I've got to cover him. Very great player, good person too, quiet leader, some Jeter mentality in a little bit. So I think he's someone that's going to be big. Austin Wells is intriguing to me. The thing is with him, I think his bat's ready. Is his catching ready? It's still the question. Is he going to be a catcher? I think he is, but people are still wondering this question with him. His swing's made for Yankee Stadium. He can hit the shit out of the ball. He doesn't need to do much more in Double-A, in my opinion. So I think he's someone that you could possibly see. I think Jason Dominguez and Everson Pereira both need more time. I think they both need to get a little more seasons. I think they're more of 2024 options potentially. So that's how I see the top of the farm. with the pitchers, we kind of went through the top guys. So I don't know if there's any pitcher per se I can put in the play for next year.
You mentioned Peraza, and obviously shortstop has been a big debate in Yankee land for a little bit, and it seems like either Peraza or Volpe is going to be the future. But for the start of this season, coming into April, what's the best option? I know the Yankees are still going to have IKF on the roster. Is it Peraza? Is it Oswaldo Cabrera? Do we see Volpe maybe get a shot? Boone said he was going to get some reps.
For me, it's Peraza. You got to go Peraza out of the gate, personally, unless he just doesn't have in spring for some reason. I think we've all seen enough of the IKF experiment, if you want to call it that. I think the Yankees would be better off allocating that money elsewhere if they could. Maybe get that left fielder they need if you can't dump picks, because they're trying to toe the luxury tax line now, it seems like, and we're really not have much wiggle room there. So that's something they're going to have to figure out. I think there's still some smaller moves coming too, like some house cleaning in certain areas. Maybe look at the outfield and the bullpen potentially with that. I would go with Peraza, though. I think Volpe needs some AAA in him a little bit, unless he just goes off in camp or something. But the thing is, spring training's so hard to judge compared to real competition. I don't know like how much they're going to look into all that stuff. To me, I think Peraza should get the shot. I think he showed he could play through AAA. He had a small glimpse in the majors to look good. I want to see more. There's more upside. We already know he's a better defender than IKF, and we already know he has more speed. So it's just a question of the hit tool, which I think isn't too bad, honestly. So I would say he can be at least an average hitter, in my opinion, maybe above average. I think that would be the good scope for him. But yeah, I want to see Peraza out there.
So you mentioned the outfield. Obviously, all Yankee fans know glaring hole. How are they going to address it? We don't necessarily know. However, there has been a name that's been circulating in free agency, especially with the Yankees, and more so this morning that I was reading. Heard some rumblings today about the Yankees potentially adding utility man Jurickson Profar for just some more overall depth. I know he can play the outfield, he can play the infield. Do you see this as a move for the Yankees that they should pounce on, or should they just roll with what they have right now going into spring training?
Okay, well, I'll give you guys a scoop right now, actually. Someone told me that the Yankees and Profar had a very good chance of happening a few days before all this stuff started percolating. I put something out, a video on it the other day a little bit. Once Morosi put it, I was like, okay, like I heard this too. To me, it's like, I would take him, honestly, I would. Is he the best option? Probably not. Is he a decent option? Yeah. I mean, it depends what the contract's going to look like. I would like him to play left, and then you could have Oswaldo rotate on the diamond. I think that's what everyone wants to see. We want Oswaldo rotating around the diamond, but if you're going to tell me you can get rid of Aaron Hicks and put Profar in left fields, I don't know who's not signing up for that.
I am curious, though. Obviously, left field is one of the glaring holes, but would it be more advantageous for them to wait to the deadline and see if maybe an Ian Happ becomes available? Obviously, teams sell at the deadline, teams find out what they're like. If they sign Profar, does that lock up that position and maybe rule out?
Yeah, that's the challenge. That's a good point. I'm happy you brought that up, because Profar is probably looking for at least 10 mil a year, you would think. He got 9 million last year. He wants multiple years. He's 29. So the good thing is he's durable, and he's not Hicks, basically, but he actually does see a lot of pitches. He's a decent hitter. He can get an uptick in homers at Yankee Stadium. But I don't know if that would fully lock them up. I see what you're saying. In my opinion, it'd be tough to get Happ if you have Profar too, although Profar could also play the infield, but you have a million infielders. So I don't know how that would all look. You'd have to probably move on from IKF and Donaldson maybe, but then you have the kids and Torres still and DJ. So it's a big puzzle here. I don't mind the idea of trying to see if Ian Happ becomes available at all, honestly. I think that'd be sweet. I think Happ would fit the Yankees like a glove, another versatile guy. And he's a lot better than Profar, too. He's played with Rizzo before. He has some championship DNA. So, I mean, it's something that could be worth holding on to. It's just we don't want to see Hicks on this roster still. I think that's what it really comes down to, because if he's on the bench or not, he's going to end up playing more than we would like probably. So, I mean, if you leave it as it is right now, I'm not worried about the AL East. It's really a question of if you're going to be Houston still. Is this lineup good enough right now? I don't think it is right now, honestly. I think we're missing a piece in there at least. So, I mean, you could play the long game if you want.
I'm glad you brought up Ian Happ, Lou. That's a guy that I wanted the Yankees to go after last deadline. Also was a name linked in that Aroldis Chapman Gleyber Torres swap many years ago. Didn't happen. Yankees end up getting Gleyber Torres instead of Ian Happ, but yet Ian Happ's name still in the mix for being a potential Yankee. Would be a great fit for the Yankees. And Julian, you mentioned the lineup. We've had discussions one-on-one about it over text. They're still they made moves this offseason. They re-signed Rizzo, they re-signed Judge. They needed to do that. But that didn't necessarily improve the lineup. It just made sure that it stayed how it was last year. You kept your 99 win lineup. You do add Carlos Rodon. That was your big splash. It could give you some more wins there.
Love that move.
Me too. Another move that I really like, though, hasn't really gotten a whole lot of attention, and that's Tommy Kahnle. He's going to come back to the Bronx and pitch for the Yankees once again, a second stint, got drafted by the Yankees as well. This is a New York guy, and he also knows how to handle New York. He's succeeded in New York at least once, hopefully multiple different times. I really, really like it. I see him being more of that 7th, 8th inning option, taking over for Chad Green. But where do you see Kahnle fitting into this bullpen, and who do you have as the opening day closer for the Yankees? Obviously, Clay Holmes, he was the guy last year. Towards the end, it became kind of closer by committee. So in terms of bullpen, Kahnle 7th and 8th, do you like it? And who's going to be the Yankees closer?
I like Kahnle in the 7th inning. I think that's his spot. I think that's what we'll end up seeing. Loizica can make a push for that closer's role. I wouldn't mind if he got it, but it seems like we're going with Clay Holmes again. And that's fine. I mean, Clay was really good. You know, he got banged up a little bit and some things happened and he kind of went the wrong way. But he started the season as good as anyone. I think you'll find some middle ground. It's tough to maintain when he did in the beginning, but I don't think he'll go through that brutal stretch again, hopefully. So maybe like ERA in the 2s or something, strike out more in a batter per inning like he has been and keep that rolling. So I think that's something you to look at. And then Michael King, we're going to see if he makes it back by opening day or not, might not. I wouldn't mind adding Andrew Chafin to replace Andrew Lickey, but I mean Lucas Lickey, obviously. But I think I don't think they're going to spend money on Chafin, although he's still sitting out there. And you only have one lefty in the bullpen now. Chapman going the Royals, Britton probably not coming back. And so, yeah, that's how I see it.
Julian, something you and Will both kind of touched on right there. The lineup, you could argue either maybe staying the same or maybe getting worse if you consider that Benintendi left and the pitching getting better. On the flip side, you both mentioned Houston, and Houston loses Verlander, so maybe their pitching got a little worse, but they add Jose Abreu. And for Houston, that's still kind of the looming threat for the Yankees. No matter what you do, you have to finally get by Houston. How big is that gap still right
now? Yeah, so that's the thing. I don't think the lineup got worse, but I don't think the lineup got worse, but if you were going to do like how much it got better, like maybe you're moving like 5 points if you're going on a 100-point scale, like depending how you grade things, maybe, because the problem is that Aaron Judge is not going to do what he did last year. It's not possible. So you need to account for that. Something else you could account for is the fact that Peraza could hopefully produce better than IKF if he ends up starting, because that was not great production at the shortstop spot. You're going to have to hope Donaldson doesn't play as much as he did last year, because that's not going to be beneficiary to the lineup. And if you get him out of there eventually, that's a big difference too. TJ's health is important. Harrison Bader full season, I think, will be nice. And then other than that, I mean, you're looking at a lot of stagnant stuff. You need Stan to be healthy. Rizzo, you'll expect to be fine as long as he's on the field too. So I see how it's like, it's not really much movement there if you're factoring all this stuff in. And then there's Waldo Cabrera. That could be an X factor. I mean, we got to see what he can do with more time. How good is the back going to be in a full season? We don't know yet. So there's a lot of variables here, but nothing seems to be good enough to get past Houston as it looks right now. Let's say Volpe comes up and rakes and he's like one of the best rookies in the league. I mean, that's an X factor. That can make a difference. Like, you might need something like that.
So Julian, I got one last question for you. I know Lou does as well. So we're getting closer and closer to the starting line of this marathon baseball season. As of right now, with this current Yankees roster as it is on January 20th, the day of recording, where do you see the Yankees finishing this 162 game slate?
Wow.
It's kind of deep. It's an involved question. It always changes. But right now in late January, where do the Yankees stand?
Yeah, you just gotta look at Houston. Honestly, you're still looking at the same spot. I think the Blue Jays are getting a lot better too. Can't count them out. I think they're going to be right behind the Yankees this year, and they're making some good moves. Their rotation sneaky good with Chris Bassett and Ryu coming back as well. So that could be problematic for us. Varshon was going to be a good fit there, I think. The lineup dynamic was a little interesting with Kiermaier, Varshon, and no more Hernandez. That'll help not having Hernandez around anymore. But they did get more balance. So I mean, are we better than Houston? I don't know. I mean, they added Jose Abreu. I think losing Verlander will help bridge the gap in the rotations, but it's the same problem, boys. Are we going to hit the Astros pitching? I'm not too sure, unfortunately. So I don't want to say we're going to lose in the ALCS, but I think if I had to say right now, we might lose in the ALCS.
And then the last one for me is, I think Yankee fans are really starting to complain about prospect hugging. And if you look back at some of the recent guys that have been hyped up, Justice Sheffield, Chance Adams, maybe even Davey and Clark their value's not where it was when they were first coming up. Is there anyone you look at right now where you think maybe their value's at an all-time high and they're probably not going to be able to get to that when they get to the majors and they should just sell high on them?
Yeah, there's a few guys I could look at with this. I would say Trey Sweeney, maybe. I'm not so into Sweeney. I know others are. I'm not really. I don't think he really fits this Yankees team. With all the guys we have already, where is he going to end up playing? I don't see it. These guys aren't really sell high anymore, but I would look to do something with Florial and David Garcia to at least get something, like maybe Albert Abreu too, like just some guys that you kind of could do some house cleaning with, maybe Cordero or something. But I'm trying to think of another guy I would sell high within the prospect pool. Luis Hill's injured, so we're not going to touch him to see if he can get back to what he was, maybe. And then after that, I mean, we'll look at some pitchers, maybe, I guess. But yeah, that's what I would say. That's what I would look to do, maybe. And then Everson Pereira could end up being on the move because you have Dominguez already and Spencer Jones. So where's his spot?
Well, Julian, we can't thank you enough for hopping on one-on-one with us, talking some baseball and talking some Yanks MLB season right around the corner. Julian Guilarte, con las Besas Lienes. Check him out on Twitter at Julian Guilarte1. And check out his podcast, Dugout Station. We'll be right back here on One on One.